Imagine waking up one day to realize the people you call friends no longer truly know who you are. Conversations have been replaced by likes, emojis, and quick exchanges that disappear as fast as they appear. You scroll through hundreds of posts each week, yet cannot remember the last time you spoke heart to heart. The world feels more connected than ever on the surface, yet beneath it, something essential has gone missing. We have entered what I call the silent crisis of human connection, a slow erosion of the bonds that once held us together. This crisis does not make headlines because it is quiet, almost invisible, and yet its impact is everywhere. It hides in the empty spaces between notifications, in awkward silences during dinner, in friends you only see online. Once, friendships were forged through shared struggles, late-night talks, and the comfort of being understood without speaking. Now, too often, they are built on shared content, mutual convenience, and curated glimpses of carefully managed lives. Something has shifted deep within our culture, and the change is so gradual most people do not even notice it happening. We confuse constant contact with closeness, and in doing so, we lose the patience to build anything lasting or meaningful. We replace the depth of real companionship with the speed of digital interaction and call it connection. But what happens to us, to our sense of belonging, when the ability to form deep friendships begins to disappear? What happens when loyalty, shared history, and unconditional presence are replaced by algorithms deciding who we see and when? This is not just nostalgia for the past. It is a warning about the kind of future we are quietly walking into. In this journey, we will uncover why deep friendships are fading and why many of us feel more isolated than ever before. We will explore how technology, culture, and even our own psychology conspire to keep our relationships comfortable but shallow. And we will look at what it takes to push past the surface and reclaim the art of true friendship. Because the death of deep friendship is not inevitable, but stopping it will require a conscious act from each of us. If you have ever felt unseen by the people around you, or longed for a friend who knows your soul, this is for you. Share this with someone you trust, someone you hope will still be in your life years from now. Stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you may see your relationships and yourself in a very different light. The first step in understanding why deep friendships are disappearing is to see the environment we now live in. We inhabit a world where time and attention are constantly fragmented into tiny, disposable pieces. Every message, every alert, every post pulls us away from the sustained presence that true friendship demands. The quiet hours once spent sitting together, talking without distraction, have been replaced by an endless scroll. And when our minds are always half here and half somewhere else, connection becomes shallow without us realizing it. Sherry Turkle, author of Alone Together, warns that we are connected in ways that leave us more isolated than before. We perform our relationships through devices, carefully editing what others see, while avoiding the raw reality of who we are. The result is a strange paradox. More contact, less closeness. More visibility, less intimacy. We can be in touch every day with someone, yet not know the last time we truly heard their voice. Even our definition of friendship has started to shift. Under this constant digital pressure, the word once described a relationship built over years of shared life, trust, and mutual care. Now it can mean nothing more than a name on a list, a profile picture, or a passing interaction online. Robin Dunbar, the anthropologist who studied human social limits, discovered we can only sustain about 150 relationships at all. But of those, only a handful, 3 to 5, are the deep bonds that give life its meaning. In the age of social media, our mental capacity has not grown, but our lists of friends have exploded. That explosion forces our attention to spread thin, leaving little energy for the few who should matter most. We drift from one conversation to another, never sinking deep enough to form roots. We think we are keeping in touch, but we are really keeping each other at a safe, comfortable distance. This environment rewards quick updates, not long conversations, and speed is the enemy of depth. You cannot build trust in 5-second voice notes, any more than you can grow a tree in a day. Deep friendship is slow by nature, built through consistent investment of time and emotion. Yet the culture we live in treats slowness as inefficiency, and inefficiency as failure. So we settle for a version of friendship that is easy to maintain and easy to replace. It may be pleasant, it may be convenient, but it rarely gives us the shelter and strength we need in life. And the longer we live in this environment, the more we forget what a real friendship even feels like. If we want to understand why this matters, we have to look at what happens inside us when depth is replaced by surface. Because the forces shaping our friendships are not only out there, in our devices and schedules, they are also inside our minds. The erosion of deep friendship is not only the result of technology or culture, it is also rooted in our emotional habits. Inside each of us there is a quiet calculation about how much of ourselves we are willing to reveal. Deep friendship demands vulnerability, but vulnerability feels risky in a world quick to judge and slow to forgive. Brené Brown, who has spent decades studying this, says vulnerability is not weakness, it is the birthplace of love and connection. Yet many of us have been trained to see it as exposure, as leaving ourselves open to pain or rejection. We put on what she calls emotional armor, presenting only the safe, polished version of who we are. It keeps us protected, but it also keeps others at a distance, where intimacy cannot reach. We have grown so accustomed to curating our identities that authenticity now feels like a kind of rebellion. In public, we project confidence and constant success, but in private, we quietly crave someone who knows our fears. The busyness of modern life gives us an excuse to avoid that level of openness. We tell ourselves we do not have time for long talks, but often it is not time we lack, it is courage. Deep friendship asks for the patience to listen without distraction, and the trust to speak without performing. It requires being present when there is no story to tell, only the simple act of existing together. But our emotional reflexes have been shaped by a culture that rewards appearances over substance. We fear that showing our flaws will make us less likable, less admirable, less worthy of keeping as a friend. So we keep conversations light, safe, and easy, even when our hearts are heavy. This avoidance creates friendships that are pleasant on the surface, but hollow at the core. We may have company in our moments of joy, but when the storms come, those bonds often disappear. Over time, we begin to lower our expectations of friendship to match what feels possible. We stop asking for depth because depth has become rare, and we accept substitutes that leave us unsatisfied. And the tragedy is that the more we live this way, the more it feels normal. To see how deep this loss runs, we have to look beyond our feelings and into the larger systems we live within. The way we live today is not just a personal choice. It is shaped by systems that often work against deep human connection. These systems are not designed with friendship in mind. They are designed for efficiency, productivity, and constant consumption. Erich Fromm, in his classic work, The Art of Loving, warned that in a consumer culture, even love and friendship can become products. We learn to evaluate relationships the same way we evaluate purchases, looking for immediate satisfaction and minimal cost. When a friendship becomes inconvenient or requires too much emotional effort, it is quietly set aside like an outdated device. The mobility of modern life has only accelerated this trend. People move for jobs, for opportunities, for adventure, and leave friendships behind. Unlike in the past, where communities were stable for decades, we now live in a state of constant geographic and social churn. Each move forces us to start over, to rebuild trust from scratch, and many of us simply stop trying at a deep level. Even those who stay in one place feel the impact of this instability in the form of transient relationships. The rise of the gig economy and flexible work schedules has made our lives more individual but also more isolated. We spend more time interacting with colleagues and acquaintances who may not be part of our lives for long. And as we prioritize professional networking over personal grounding, the roots of deep friendship grow shallower. Hyper-individualism, a defining value in many modern cultures, encourages us to focus on self-improvement and personal achievement above all else. On the surface, this seems empowering, but it often comes at the cost of shared commitment and mutual care. When everyone is taught to put themselves first, there is little room for the sacrifices that deep friendship requires. We become skilled at self-promotion but less practiced at selfless presence, the quiet act of showing up without expecting anything in return. Social media amplifies this by rewarding visibility, not intimacy. It is easy to gain an audience but much harder to gain a confidant. Our feeds are filled with moments designed to impress, not moments that reveal the messy truth of our lives. This constant performance leaves little space for the kind of private, unfiltered connection that sustains true friendship. In such a system, even well-intentioned people struggle to maintain depth. The environment simply does not reward it. We end up with friendships that are easy to start, easy to display, and easy to end, but hard to trust with our deepest selves. And if this is the soil in which our relationships are planted, it is no wonder they fail to grow strong. But the story is not over, because there comes a moment when we begin to question whether this is enough. That moment is where the possibility for change begins, and it always starts with asking the right questions. That moment when you sense that something is missing is where the real work of friendship begins. It starts not with more effort, but with better questions. Who truly knows me beyond what I post or what I choose to share? Who would show up for me when there is nothing to gain and everything to lose? And perhaps the hardest question of all, whose life have I chosen to know that deeply in return? C.S. Lewis in The Four Loves described friendship as a love freely chosen, unbound by necessity or advantage. It is the one form of love that exists only when both people choose it again and again over time. But choice alone is not enough. We need the courage to show up as we really are without the armor. That courage often feels dangerous because it means revealing our weaknesses, our fears, and our unpolished truths. Yet without it, the roots of friendship cannot take hold in the soil of our lives. When we dare to let someone see the unedited version of us, we invite a connection that goes beyond comfort. We give the other person permission to do the same. And in that mutual risk, trust begins to grow. This is not the kind of trust you can manufacture through consistent messaging or shared photos. It is the kind of trust forged through shared silences, hard seasons, and the knowledge that presence will not be withdrawn. Better questions lead us toward better friendships, but only if we are willing to act on the answers we find. If you discover that your relationships are thin, you can choose to water them, or you can keep them easy and forgettable. The courage to connect deeply is the choice to invest in bonds that will not always be convenient, but will always be worth it. And to see why this choice is so rare, we need to look inside the psychology of how human relationships form and fade. When we look inside the psychology of human connection, we begin to see why deep friendships are so rare today. Aristotle once wrote that there are three kinds of friendship: those of utility, those of pleasure, and those of virtue. Friendships of utility exist for mutual benefit, like colleagues who cooperate until the project ends. Friendships of pleasure are based on shared enjoyment, like the people you see only at parties or hobbies. But the highest form, friendships of virtue, are built on mutual respect for each other's character and a shared pursuit of the good. They require time, consistency, and a willingness to witness each other's growth over years, not weeks. In our fast-moving world, the first two types are easy to start and easy to end, but the third is harder to find. It is not that we are incapable of deep bonds. It is that our environment and habits make them harder to sustain. Human brains are wired to seek rewards with the least effort, and modern life offers plenty of quick relational hits. A like, a short message, a shared meme can give a burst of dopamine that feels like connection. But this is the fast food version of friendship. It satisfies for a moment but leaves us undernourished. True trust is slow cooked. It comes from showing up again and again through both joy and hardship without keeping score. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, argued that humans find purpose in shared struggle and common meaning. When friends endure challenges together, illness, loss, failure, their bond deepens in ways no amount of casual fun can replace. Yet in our current culture, we often avoid such challenges together, choosing instead to face them alone or hide them entirely. We fear burdening others or revealing that we are not as strong as we appear. But without shared trials, friendship loses one of its most powerful binding forces. This is why so many modern relationships remain at the surface. They have never been tested in the depths. And when life inevitably brings hardship, those untested bonds often crack under the pressure. Psychologically, we also overestimate how well we know our friends, assuming familiarity because of frequency of contact. In truth, knowing about someone's life is not the same as knowing their inner world. Deep friendship requires more than keeping up with updates. It requires stepping into the emotional reality behind them. This step is uncomfortable because it demands empathy, patience, and a willingness to sit with complexity. But it is in that complexity that the richest connections are formed, the ones that endure when all else falls away. And if we want to reclaim those connections, we must be intentional about how we build and maintain them in everyday life. If we are to be intentional about our friendships, we have to treat them as something worth deliberate effort. Deep friendship does not happen by accident. It grows from repeated choices to prioritize another person's presence in your life. One of the most powerful ways to do this is to create what I call deep time. Deep time means spending hours together without a specific agenda, without screens dividing your attention. It might be a long walk, a shared meal cooked from scratch, or simply sitting together in unhurried conversation. Aristotle understood that virtue-based friendship is built on shared life, not just shared interests. It is the daily and weekly rituals that weave people into the fabric of each other's stories. Another essential practice is deep listening, hearing without rushing to reply, without turning the focus back to yourself. When you listen in this way, you give your friend the rare gift of feeling truly seen and understood. Erich Fromm argued that love, including friendship, is not a feeling but an action, a skill that must be practiced. In the same way we strengthen our bodies through exercise, we strengthen our friendships through consistent acts of care. Metacognition can help here. Notice how you show up in your friendships. Are you giving as much as you receive? Do you reach out when you have nothing to share except your presence? Do you celebrate their wins without comparison and stand by them without needing recognition? We can also design friendship rituals that anchor our bonds. Annual trips, book clubs, Sunday dinners, shared projects. These rituals create a sense of continuity that resists the pull of busyness and distance. They signal to both people that this connection matters enough to protect and maintain. In a culture that rewards speed and convenience, slowing down to nurture friendship is a quiet act of rebellion. It is choosing depth over distraction, consistency over novelty, and loyalty over self-interest. And the more we practice this discipline, the more we remember what friendship was always meant to be. But even with all these practices, the deeper question remains: why have we let these bonds fade in the first place? So why have we let these bonds fade? The answer is rarely just time, distance, or technology. It is fear. Deep friendship changes us. It challenges our self-image and exposes parts of us we might prefer to keep hidden. Carl Jung once said that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. True friendship demands that we face it, because to be truly known is to have our masks removed. We fear that if someone sees all of us, the flaws, the doubts, the contradictions, they might turn away. So we hide behind busyness, behind curated updates, behind a safe version of ourselves that can be easily liked but never deeply loved. In doing so, we trade the richness of being known for the comfort of being accepted without question. But comfort is not the same as connection, and acceptance without truth is just performance. Deep friendship is not only an emotional choice, it is a moral act. It is the decision to honor loyalty over convenience, to stand with someone not because they are useful, entertaining, or impressive, but because they are yours to keep. It is a spiritual act as well, the act of giving and receiving without conditions, of showing up even when nothing is in it for you. When you practice friendship in this way, you place truth over comfort, depth over ease, and commitment over self-interest. And you discover that the vulnerability you once feared becomes the very thing that binds you together. The world around us may not reward this kind of friendship. It will not trend, it will not go viral, it will not boost your profile. But it will give you something far greater, a refuge in the storms of life, a witness to your days, a partner in your growth. You will become that for someone else too. And in that mutual presence, there is a freedom no shallow connection can offer. This is what the quiet revolution of connection looks like. It begins with one person deciding to invest deeply in another. It grows when you make time, tell the truth, and stay through both the laughter and the silence. It spreads when you resist the cultural drift toward disposability and choose instead to hold on. You do not need to fix the entire crisis of human connection to change a life. You only need to show up for one person and keep showing up. If you have someone in your life who has seen you at your worst and stayed anyway, hold on to them. If you do not, begin now to be that person for someone else. Because when you become the kind of friend you wish you had, you not only change the relationship, you change yourself. And when enough of us do this quietly and consistently, the tide begins to turn. The death of deep friendship is not inevitable, but stopping it will take courage, patience, and a refusal to settle for less than real connection. Let others drift in the comfort of easy company. You have seen what is at stake. You are awake now, and once you awaken, you cannot go back.